everybody has a book of life with different chapters. One major chapter for me in my life is my family. And my family has always been the center of my life. It started meeting my wife.
We were in high school and he was cute and played basketball and he liked me and sure we went out.
And after the second date, I literally knew that this is somebody, I was going to really love. I did say to her, though, at the end of the second date,
listen, basketball is my number one. So you will take a back seat to basketball. And if you're okay with that, we can keep dating.
And apparently she thought about it and said, yeah, I'm going to be okay with that.
He was at camp and I wrote him a letter every single day.
And my grandma freaked out. And I think she even made my dad sign a contract that said if he stayed with my mom, he would still graduate college and go to medical school.
She just wanted to make sure that I didn't prevent him from becoming a doctor. I was 19, we got married, but we knew that we were going to be together. We never fell out of love.
My parents, I think they knew that they wanted a big family, and they made it happen.
I really admire that he has had such an amazing career and been able to be a wonderful father, that he didn't choose one over the other. We never felt, I think, second fiddle to his career.
When I was going through a tough time in 7th grade, he bought a book that was 50 hikes in Connecticut, and we did all 50 hikes. Just him and I, because he just kind of knew that's what I needed.
When I was in college, I was pursuing a career in music. I was a drummer in a band. A core memory of mine, being behind the drum kit at CBGB's and looking out into the audience, and there's like 2 people there, and one of them's my dad, the dean of Mount Sinai, who's in this crappy old music club that's about to close down.
You knew it was always going to be on your side, would always have the right thing to say. It would just make you feel better, for whatever was happening.
And he was just looking at me and being so proud of me. And that gave me so much confidence in that moment. To see someone who you respect so much look back at you and believe in you gives you so much more belief in yourself.
I think that he will always be remembered as someone who was the utmost family man in terms of a father and a grandfather and as a brother and a son.
I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help a lot of people. I wanted to make discoveries that took the test of time.
He did his psychiatry residency at Yale, and as soon as he got to Yale, was right out of the gate trying to lead research in that field.
The dentist did one study after another. He opened new territory, taking on anxiety disorders, OCD, drug abuse, and eventually got into PTSD. We'd sit down and read a paper, and he'd be finished before I was halfway down the page.
What did we want to do? We wanted to transform psychiatry and put it on a scientific foundation. That idea was revolutionary.
We were working to develop better treatments for depression. The antidepressant drugs that had been available took time to work, frequently weeks and months to work. And for somebody who's seriously depressed, that's a long time to suffer. We were not satisfied with the current situation, so we wanted to figure out a way to do better.
And that led us ultimately to test ketamine effects in depressed patients.
We did the first study when I was at Yale, and it was in 7 patients. And when we gave the ketamine, the patients started feeling better in a few hours. And it was like a miracle.
We knew on the research unit that was too small a venue for him. It constrained his potential impact. And I was really thrilled to see him move to Sinai and emerge as dean, because it seemed that for the first time he had the platform he needed to realize his broad potential impact.
When I ultimately decided that I was going to leave the National Institute of Mental Health back in 2004, my wife and I decided, well, let's look about coming back to New York, and spoke to Ken about it.
So I said to Dennis, why don't you come by Mount Sinai?
I actually still remember walking around the campus with Ken, and we started talking about what we could do together.
I told him that he could be the dean at that time for academic affairs. And I promised him that after being the dean for academic affairs, he'd become the dean.
I could have said to him, do you want to work with your best friend? Wouldn't that be an amazing opportunity?
And I said to Meredith, Meredith, you're right. I'm going to go to Mount Sinai.
And he joined Mount Sinai when we were struggling. We all knew that, but we had a confidence that we could turn it around.
And so in the middle of 2004, I started out at Mount Sinai, initially as Dean for Research, and then became overall Dean in 2007.
He probably didn't know at first how he would drive things, but you bet on people. Ken bet on Dennis, and he cashed in big time over the next 20 years.
This was a man who gets it done, and I wanted a dean like that.
What Ken saw in Dennis was the unique ability to build. Dennis is an extraordinary builder with vision and creativity and boldness.
A man with his national stature who had decided to come to Mount Sinai was making a statement for the rest of the world that I trust this place. If I'm putting my career on the line for this place, you can too. He had the kind of personality that was assertive enough and even charismatic enough that he could recruit. And I knew that the success of Mount Sinai depended on bringing in the best people.
How do you make it a great school? The way you make it a great school is by having great scholars, great teachers, and physicians.
Unlike others who would have taken, 5-6 years to kind of figure it all out, he really knew what he wanted. He had a vision from the start and proceeded with great confidence and skill.
I would tell people that you want to be with us for the ride.
I was on my way up to Boston to take a job at Harvard. Dennis articulated what his vision was for Mount Sinai, which was really to build the science alongside the great clinical work. And that's the kind of thing that convinces and inspires any young academician, which is what I was at the time, to say, wow, this is a place that is going to move in the right direction. I want to be part of it.
I was going to Hopkins, and he called me to his office and said, you are not leaving. You stay here, and I will follow your vision. I still remember. What is interesting is the way he said it, I believe him. So it took no more than 5 minutes for me to tell myself, this is the place to be, and this is the man to follow.
He found an elevated talent anywhere he could find it. He looked around Mount Sinai and recognized that we didn't have a single woman chair in our entire giant medical center. Not one.
I was the first woman chair he recruited. I was the second female chair that Dennis appointed. 2009, I got a call from him after the previous chair had resigned, and Dennis said, Lisa, I want you to consider becoming the next chair. I said, it's not in my 5-year plan, and he said, time to rewrite your 5-year plan.
Now, just like half of our workforce are women and half of our faculty are women, about half of our leaders are women.
He's really the architect of the current research landscape at Mount Sinai.
The creation of institutes was something that my dad implemented here at Mount Sinai.
I felt that the pure department model was siloed, and there wasn't enough collaboration across departments. So early on in my tenure, I formed an initial 12 research institutes that really facilitated great research.
The diversity of thought, the diversity of people that are approaching a particular problem makes this aha moment where you say, oh, there's a whole new way to look at this.
In creating the Institute for Health Equity Research, he really brought health equity research to the attention of everyone at Mount Sinai and beyond with the creation of our institute.
Dr. Charney has helped not just to elevate, but to accelerate our work. One, in being clear and visible and public about the value of equity and inclusion.
My vision for the Department of OB/GYN when I became chair was really to elevate women's healthcare in research and education and clinical care, and to become a really national leader in women's healthcare. Under his leadership, we're developing programs and centers that are taking a whole different integrative and holistic approach to the care of women throughout their entire lives.
When things don't go as well as we wanted them to be, I would be quite sad or devastated, and he would say, it's not a big deal, we'll get it next time. He taught me resilience, and he taught me to bounce back. It's an extraordinary quality.
What Dennis outlined for me was the opportunity to take what has always been a good neuroscience program at Mount Sinai and make it one of the very best in the world.
With Dennis's support, we've discovered for the first time a specific protein in the brain that could represent a new target for depression. He said, James, if you're not failing, you're not taking enough risks.
He will challenge you in asking questions which has never been asked. He will challenge you to see, can you cure the cancer? The word cure the cancer, he's the one who will give you that question.
From my perspective, he has always supported me to take on leadership roles, where even I wouldn't believe in myself, but he would say, you're ready to do this.
Dennis was really visionary in where the science was going in the 21st century, and provided the resources for the graduate school to embrace that vision and to train the next generation of students in biomedical sciences.
How do we get AI into the curriculum? How do we get genomic medicine and genomic health into the curriculum? How do we get big data into the curriculum while maintaining the importance of the students learning how to be a physician?
Dennis realized very, very early that combination of several technologies, genomics, digital health, artificial intelligence, large-scale computing, was poised to reshape the current landscape of medicine to becoming personalized, to becoming predictive, to becoming proactive, and to becoming preventative.
Which has resulted in the development of technologies that will ultimately benefit patients in the form of therapeutics, medical devices, digital solutions to the delivery of care.
Under his leadership, the Department of Medicine was able to establish a division of data-driven digital medicine, which resulted in the recruitment of faculty who have clinical expertise but also computational, AI and machine learning. And so the marriage between AI approaches to clinical care, research, and education can really happen in a meaningful way.
And that is the reason why Mount Sinai is one of the most vibrant, most entrepreneurial, and most transformative medical schools in the country.
Some people think about resilience as a personality trait that you have or you don't. Either you're tough or you're not, or you've got some grit or you don't. But what he really contributed to literature is that resilience is a set of skills that can be learned, that can be trained, that can be practiced over time.
On Monday morning, Chappaqua, New York became the scene of a dramatic shootout. A popular and beloved dean at New York's Mount Sinai Medical School shot in broad daylight along with an innocent bystander.
I was the ICU attending that day, so I went in and introduced myself. To my surprise, he was humble and he said, "Yeah, of course I know you, and I've heard you have a very bright future ahead of you."
He'd met with so many people who had survived crises and trauma, prisoners of war, people that have had just, horrific things happen to them. He intellectually knew about resilience, but hadn't really faced such a crisis for himself.
We all leaned on what he did for work when we were traumatized ourselves. Getting up, doing something each day, working out your body and your mind, those things all help towards being resilient.
There was a tremendous sense in Dr. Charney that he just wasn't finished. There was much more to be done, and he had plans, and they were not going to be interrupted.
In the aftermath, there was the white coat ceremony, which is when new medical students get initiated into the profession, and he was going to do whatever he could to physically be there and make that speech.
You will face tough times, but if you stay the course, nose to the grindstone, eyes to the stars, ultimately you will emerge further down the road tougher than the rest. For as Ernest Hemingway said, the world breaks everyone, and half the wood. Many are strongest in the broken places. Thank you very much.
It's like a war. We're fighting this invisible enemy, the virus. I am one of the generals, but it's more stressful to be soldiers on the front line.
There were lots of heroes here at Mount Sinai during COVID, and Dennis Charney is certainly one of them.
I'm seeing a lot of bravery and a lot of courage at our institution every day, every hour, where our doctors and our nurses and others are just performing extraordinarily in the face of adversity.
Dennis Charney was a source of strength for all of us.
He was present every day reminding us that it was our job to fight this disease on behalf of the folks that trust us.
He knew that each day is going to be a new day with a new challenge that needed to be addressed. And so he made sure that he was a part of that.
We're looking for someone who's very agile, who's very quick to respond and make decisions, who's always trying to do the right thing for the patients and our providers.
For me, to see a leader roll up their sleeves and say, I'm coming in every day when he can risk bringing disease back home to his family, that was inspiring. And I said, if he's going to be here, then I want to be here too.
Fear and anxiety is normal. You utilize those emotions to perform your task in an outstanding manner.
That's what Mount Sinai needed, it's what New York needed, it's what the country and the world needed. They needed us to take the clinical question in front of us, translate that into a research question, and to start executing right away.
During COVID, Dennis Charney demonstrated extraordinary leadership by bringing the school together with the hospital, by inspiring every medical student, every laboratory technician, every scientist, every postdoc to think about what they could do to help people who were sick and dying in New York City and in the world.
We'll look back and say, if I could win the fight against COVID-19, I could deal with any challenge going forward. And I think they will look back upon this time and place as being their finest hour.
Dennis, the Mount Sinai community will remember you as the individual who took us from good to great. Under your leadership, our school has soared to unimaginable heights, both in terms of medical education and medical research.
I'm certainly proud of what happened. I'm certainly happy the way he has turned out to be so successful. And again, I just congratulate him and say, Dennis, well done.
Dennis, congratulations on an extraordinary career at Mount Sinai. We are grateful for your many years of service and dedication to making Mount Sinai the incredible organization that it is today.
What I love the most about Grandpa is that we will always watch the Knicks games together.
I love Grandpa because he works out and he tries to get strong.
I love you, Grandpa.
I've always felt that my responsibility is that my children and my grandchildren take what we have done, what I've done, my wife has done, as a platform to do even greater things.
My grandpa always tells me that his hero is his family, and I think that's a really nice thing to say.
What I love about Grandpa is that he's always my buddy and up for any sport.
Even if we don't see each other every single day, you always are there asking about how I'm doing. You make me feel really special.
I love you, Grandpa.
Dennis, we've built an extraordinary life together. And now in this next chapter, we will share the simple joys of being together. I love you.
I wish I could turn back time and do it again. And most of what I've done, I would do it again.
Dennis Charney has had a greater positive transformational effect on Mount Sinai than any dean at any place at any time in history.
I want you to maintain this perspective. Keep imagining what is possible. Imagine what you can achieve, and know that you can make those dreams come true. And as John Lennon wrote, you may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I still have dreams as I move forward.